$45 for for the year, which is normally $60 to help kind of defray some of the costs and making sure that we can do a donation to the athletic department this year, like we always do, and $20 for young alumni. But a number of you have exceeded that and been very, very generous. So we appreciate that a lot. And kind of brings you to the point, that we did ask for $45, but just remember there's no amount that's too large. We can always go higher, and again, no amount too small. We appreciate any donations. All right, so before we get on to the business, this is kind of the first meeting that we're really officially having for Grid Club, and I just feel that I need to talk a little bit about something here. I started the first Grid Club meeting I went to was a year or two after I got out of Cal, so it was like late 70s, early 80s kind of thing. And I remember, getting an invitation in the mail to the club, and I joined, and I went to my first meeting and was wandering around and didn't really know anybody. But as I kind of looked around the room, I looked and I said, wait a second, there's that guy that hosts the horror movies on TV. And of course, that was Jeff Wong. And Jeff was the first person at the meeting that came up and introduced himself and talked to me and welcomed me to the meeting. And little did I know that some 30 some odd years later that I would actually be president of the club, and that Jeff would be probably my biggest supporter and a great help to me. And so as you know, Jeff passed away recently, and these meetings just are not, the Grid Club meetings are not going to be, really the same without him. Jeff was kind of the heart and soul in a lot of ways of the Grid Club. He was always there at all the meetings, and I'm going to miss him. Nothing that I ever needed or questions that I had, Jeff ever said no to. And a couple of these pictures that I have up here, you see where he's sitting is right to the left of the check-in table there, or standing. And I know that anytime I'm going to be at Iron Grill, I'm just not going to be able to look over that way and not see Jeff. And there's going to be a big void at the meetings without him, and I'm going to miss him dearly. So if you have something to drink with you, let's raise a glass to one of the Grid Club's greatest supporters and greatest members, Jeff Wong. Jeff, we're going to miss you, buddy, and go Bears. All right. So now on to kind of other topics. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what we've got upcoming. We've got, oh, by the way, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the game that's not happening this weekend, what I've learned. But I do want to emphasize that despite whatever happens, whether there are any games this season, the meetings are going to go on. We have a really fantastic slate of speakers, and and some of them are folks that are a little difficult to get because of scheduling and getting them up here and all of that. So, or just geography, and so we were able to get them this time. So. The meetings are going to go on, whether there is a game or there is not a game. So next week, and this is, I know the time is a little odd, but this is one of those situations where, we had to work with schedulers because it's tough to get. But on Tuesday, so this coming Tuesday, November 10th, before our game against Arizona State, Chancellor Christ is going to be with us. So Carol Christ is going to be joining us. I've been trying to get her up to Grid Club for quite some time, but the schedules have never allowed it. So, we just couldn't get the calendars together. So being on Zoom, we have kind of an opportunity to be a little bit more flexible since we don't have a venue and it has to be Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. So Chancellor Christ will be here. Just like this meeting, you do need to register for it. So I just put up into the chat the Zoom link for registration. So you can do that right now. This is a rare opportunity. I don't know if we'll ever be able to get Chancellor Christ here. She's going to make some comments and then be available for questions. There's so much going on campus right now, obviously. And so this is a good opportunity to find out what's really, what's happening and where things are going and all of that. So definitely you want to be here on Tuesday. I know it's 4 o'clock, it's a tough time, but it was a time we were able to get. And so the following Tuesday, again, being flexible here, November 17th, before the Oregon State game, one of our old friends is going to be back with us that's been quite busy and unable to get, Roxy Bernstein. So Roxy will be here. He's always a lot of fun. So you want to sign in for that. And an invitation will go out with the link to register. And then for Big Game Week, which is, the game is Friday, November 27th, and that is Thanksgiving week. So as normal on Thanksgiving week, our meeting is on Tuesday. So that's Tuesday, November 24th. I'm really excited about this one, and he actually registered for the meeting. I don't know if he is here with us today. If he is, I welcome him. Robert Paler will be speaking with us. Robert was the rugby player that was severely injured in the championship game a couple of years ago. And I've heard him speak on some videos and things, and he is so inspirational. His story is fantastic. He lives up in El Dorado Hills. So he's on our mailing list. So hopefully he'll be be attending a number of our meetings, but he will be our guest speaker on Tuesday, the 24th. And then for the Oregon game, which will be a regular Wednesday meeting, December 2nd, Dave Lambros. So Dave will come and give us all the scoop from the official side. So Pac-12 official Dave Lambros. Before the Washington State game on Wednesday, December 9th, we will have a former player with us. Quarterback Rich Campbell is going to be joining us. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely be there for that one. And then on our last speaker is going to be Marissa Nichols, Dr. Marissa Nichols, who is the executive director of the Cameron Institute, which is the new program that Brian Cameron funded with $12.5 million seed money for the student athletes. And it's an absolutely amazing program that has to do with the players' mental health, their careers, leadership, community, amazing program. And it's something that we all need to hear about. So that's our slate of speakers. It's a short slate, it's a short season. So with that, let me just give you a quick update on on the game this weekend that's not happening. So as I'm sure you've all heard at this point, we had one player that did test positive for COVID, and the contact tracing, basically identified all of those that he has been in contact with. And while they, at this point, are all testing negative, that has to remain for a number of days before they can be allowed to go and make contact with others. So the reason that the game itself was canceled based on the one player is this contact tracing. So the players, when they're practicing, they practice in their position groups. And so that's who they have contact with. And what that means is that basically all of that position is now unavailable for the game on Saturday. So I don't know who the player is. I don't know what position the player plays. So I have no information, but so I'm just going to put a position out there as an example. So what that basically means is that if the player happened to be an offensive lineman, that group all practices together. So that means we would have to field a team without an offensive line. And that's effectively why you can't play a game. We are unable to field a competitive team. And in the Pac-12, there is a provision that if you can't field a competitive team, the game will be canceled. And so that's what happened. So what this is going to do in the record books is it's just going to be a no contest. So it's just not going to be basically part of the season. At this point right now, they are now preparing the rest of the team that is able to practice. They are continuing to practice, and they are planning on playing Arizona State. So as of right now, the Arizona State game is still on. But as I commonly say so many times here, that the only, I've been saying this since mid-March, is the only thing that we are 100% certain of is that anything that we know today could change tomorrow. So, just depending on, I did talk to someone in the athletic department today as to where I'm getting my information, and from the things that we've just all read, is that, they're just taking it day by day. It's all they can do. Is right now they're excited about playing Arizona State. They're planning on playing Arizona State. They're preparing for Arizona State. And, until they find out for some reason that game is not able to happen, they are planning for it. So that's the information I know. So with that, I asked for questions, except that that's everything I know. Any other questions I wouldn't know the answer to anyway. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and start our program. The coaches' videos. We don't know at this point whether we will be able to get them or not. We are hopeful. However, as I say, nothing is normal this year. We don't know what the situation is going to be. Everybody in the athletic department and on the coaching staff, they're all running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to put a season together and dealing with everything. So if they are able to do the videos for us, they will do so. If not, it's going to be one of those COVID year differences. We did actually have a speaker lined up tonight to talk about Washington, but being that there's no game, we went ahead and abandoned that. So with that, that's kind of all I know at this point. So as typical, the one thing that is, we are sticking with our tradition. Our first speaker of the year is going to be Barrett Sider's Jim McGill. Jim always has the latest on the team. He maybe can fill us in on how recruiting is going and what everything looks like there. And Jim may have some information that I don't have on the current situation. So, and a look at what the team looks like this year. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jim McGill. Jim, welcome. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Always enjoy hanging out with you guys. Sorry it's from a distance this time, and I add my condolences on your loss of Jeff. He seemed like a real institution there. He always had a big smile and tons of questions and was always there. So sorry for you guys not having him around anymore. He'll be missed, I'm sure. So the team right now, it's a real frustrating situation, obviously. Coach Wilcox today talked to us at about 3, and he read a laundry list of the things that they did to keep the team prepared. And it was a pretty extensive list. They were super careful. And he was pretty passionate about it. He said the seniors especially have taken a big leadership role, saying, guys, look, you have got to follow the rules. You have got to be safe. This is the last chance that us seniors are going to have to play. And we've got a short schedule already. We can't afford to miss out. And so believe me, this didn't happen because the guys weren't being careful. It's just, I mean, that's the world we're living in right now. And unfortunately with the contract tracing rules, especially in the city of Berkeley, it's knocking out a wide swath of the team, and there's just no way to field the team. It's the defensive line that got hit the hardest. That's the one player that tested positive, and he's asymptomatic, so he's not really ill right now, but you don't know if he's contagious and you don't know if the other guys have it. I'm hoping that they can negotiate something where they keep regularly testing, and after X amount of days showing negative, that guys will be allowed to practice again. But as of right now, it looks like it's 14 days. And if they stick with 14 days and they don't budge and there's no way around it, that would potentially knock out the ASU game too. So we're all going to be on pins and needles until we find out for sure how this is going to be handled. But beyond that, I mean, we don't want to beat a dead horse there. There's only so much we can say about the situation right now. If you guys want to hit me up with questions about the team after I give some introductory remarks about the team, that would be great. I think coming into this season, I was as optimistic as any season since 04 or 05, really, because there was such tremendous experience depth at every position. That kind of got chipped away a little bit. A couple of guys not coming back, especially like Tevin Paul. A little bit of injuries here and there, and then things like this. But if they can get back to playing again and they don't get hit too hard on the injury front, I still do think they have the type of team that can challenge for a Pac-12 North title or overall title if they can reach that mark, not having played a game. I think, we have to see how this all plays out. If other schools are going to miss any games, what do you do if one team has one less game than other teams? We don't know. But overall, I really like the way the team stacks up at every position group. There's a little bit of thinness here and there, but overall, a lot of the shortcomings of last year have been addressed either through getting guys back healthy or younger guys having more time in the system and getting bigger and stronger and more ready to contribute. So go ahead and hit me with some questions. I'd be glad to answer anything I can. Gary, do you want to take questions in chat and then unmute people who have the questions?
Okay, yeah, actually, Scott's going to do that for us.
Okay.
So, but I'll start out with a question. So is Cam Bynum going to stick with the team now that there's been a cancellation?
I really don't think that's going to change because of one game.
Okay.
I think reevaluate if the season got canceled, but he certainly hasn't said anything about it. And knowing what I've heard from him, I'd be shocked if that were on his mind right now.
Mm-hmm.
Gary,
so,
pop in, or how do you want us to handle this?
Yeah, why don't probably best go ahead and put them in chat, but Al, go ahead, and if you have a question now, because there's none in chat, so go ahead.
Okay, my question, Jim, is even though it's been labeled as a no contest, is there any opportunities for an adjustment in the schedule so that we can reschedule University of Washington?
As far as I understand, they don't have the time built in to be able to do that. They'd have to push back the Pac-12 championship game and the other round robin games, and there's just doesn't seem to be leeway for that.
Anybody other questions?
I'm just going to break in here because I don't see many questions yet. If you have questions, the ideal way is to write it into the chat. If you can find the chat window, and I will convey them to Jim. Or there's a feature here in Zoom where you can raise a hand, and which Dan did a little bit earlier. But if you raise a hand, I'll try to get you online to get on camera or on the microphone to ask your question. So we're all figuring this out, but either type your question into chat or raise a hand. And we do have a question from Rick Holmes. Rick, I'm going to unmute you. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Hey, Jim, I'm curious to find out your perspective on what's going on with 2021 recruiting.
Right now, things are kind of on hold. I really like the class that they've put together. It's really balanced and addressed all their needs. I believe they have 20 commits right now. It might be 19. really they're just waiting for a few select guys. Yanni Karlaftis, middle linebacker from Indiana, who is choosing between Cal and playing with his brother at Purdue, who had a really, really good freshman year this year. Wisconsin and Oregon are also in his top 4, but it's really a Cal Purdue battle there. Let's see, it's for running back. Byron Cardwell, a running back out of San Diego, has been Cal's top target all along. They've ended up passing on some of the guys that they offered because their academics really, upon closer look, weren't as strong as they wanted. He's been the guy. He's a power back, and he's got some agility too. He's really the best West Coast back out there. And the talk is that he likes USC, but honestly, I think he's going to end up at Cal. He has talked about signing in the late signing period, but if they can get him up in the next month and a half before early signing day, I wouldn't be surprised to see him commit to Cal then. And I'm not going to guarantee it or anything, but he's just given feedback that makes it seem like Cal's in the lead there. So that's really big. Trying to think. I think there's one guy I'm missing out here, but there's really not many guys left. They're probably going to keep the class on the small side. They were thinking about maxing it out around 25 earlier, but I think there's some lack of clarity on what kind of roster limitations there will be next year, since they're allowing seniors to come back if they choose to. And Cal knows that not every guy is going to choose to come back. Not every guy is going to have the ability to come back. So how many are returning and boosting the roster up to higher than they would have normally expected? It's hard to say. Normally they get to 25 by a decent amount of attrition, with guys graduating or guys retiring on medical reasons or for transfers or some other reason, but there's not going to be as high attrition this year. So don't expect the class to be a whole lot bigger than it is right now, maybe 21, 22 overall. If as far as the guys that are committed right now, I don't know how much typically you all follow recruiting, but it's a really nice group. It's rated 18th in the country by 247, which has kind of become the top source for recruiting rankings. It used to be Rivals, but they're really not investing a lot of scouting efforts into rating these guys. And the fact that we're not seeing them in 7-on-7 tournaments and in combines and in early fall seasons, all of those things are making it that much more complicated to get correct ratings on guys. But number 18 is really impressive. Let me see if I can get my list up here real quick. Let's see. I'm going to try it another way. So receiver is one of the groups that is particularly exciting. 2 of the highest rated recruits in the class that are commits. Jermichael Sturdivant from Texas is a guy that is looking like a surefire collegiate star. He's a 4-star with ratings from offers from everyone around the country. That was a big pull. Stanford wanted him a decent amount. Maven Anderson is the other receiver commit, another big receiver, another 4-star from Mission Viejo. Tight end Jermaine Terry is another 4-star with offers from everybody, Alabama and tons of other great programs. Then you're probably familiar with the second tight end that's committed because he's from your area, Kaleki Latu. His brother is a stud playing defensive line up at UW, and he's done really well up there. Offensive line, it's a good group of 4 so far. Got Vasquez Swinney from Minnesota, who I'm really excited about. Will Reed from up in the Seattle area. Ryan Lang, a local Bay Area kid from Pittsburgh High, real big kid. And the off the radar guy from up in Washington, Dylan Jemtegard. Our publisher, Greg Richardson, likes him best of all the offensive line commits Cal has. Really good group there too. And of course, at quarterback, real excited about Kai Milner from Arizona, super athletic and has a really good passing touch. And I think he'd be a really good fit at Cal. He's a good character guy, really good student too. And the defense, it's a real solid group too. Defensive line, stacking on top of last strong defensive line class. We've got Achille Calhoun, a 4-star defensive end out of Liberty Brentwood, which is another Bay Area school. Patrick Kisataki is a guy who can play outside linebacker or defensive end. Super big, strong, and aggressive pass rusher. Derek Wilkins, another 4-star defensive end from Rancho Santa Margarita down south. That was a big win too. USC, Stanford, a lot of big programs. UCLA wanted him pretty badly. See a defensive back. We've got a few guys that are good cover guys, athletic guys. Caleb Higgins, another local guy to you, out in Folsom. A lot of people think he's underrated. Umaja Hearns, De La Salle, real quick, athletic defensive back. Let's see. I think I'm forgetting one of the defensive backs. Walu Iosefa, freshman linebacker from Hawaii, his little brother, Fatuvala, who goes by Eric. He's a guy they're excited about too. He's a real long cornerback that's athletic like his brother. It's a real good group so far. Linebacker too, Caleb Elamzor from Hayward, another Bay Area kid. Another 4-star kid, just blows up the screen when you watch his highlights. I definitely advise you to check him out. And another local guy to Sacto, Moses Oladejo, big, strong kid, real good on the run. They're excited about him too. So overall, really good group. It's a long answer to a simple question, but I know it's something that everybody's really interested in. So I didn't want to just kind of skim over that group. It's a really good group.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut in here just because my questions are stacking up a little bit. Your audio's going in and out a little bit. I don't know if that's on your end or my end. Just want to let you know. Steve Swab is next with questions.
Yeah, you may have sort of hinted at this answer anyway, but sometimes these coaching staff is sitting on silent commits. Are you aware of any silent commits out there?
I don't think there are any right now.
Right.
Okay. Hey, Paul Meyer, let me see if I can make sure I get you off of mute here. My screen is doing weird things. Hold on. Oh, I got you in here somewhere. Let me.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Jim, have you been going to any practices? And if so, who has stood out for you, surprised you?
The city of Berkeley will not allow us to go to practices. So
okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that question.
Well, maybe have the coaches mention to you people who have stood out and surprised them.
You know, they don't speak a lot in specifics. Try and remember who they've talked about. Freshman receiver Hunter was getting good reviews. He's dinged up right now. So don't know what kind of opportunity he's going to have this year, but he was showing really well. Let's see. Let me take a look at that group real fast to refresh my memory, because we're just hearing bits and pieces. See, defensive back, we're hearing about Trey Pastor, big kid out of Modesto who is just NFL size for the position. He's playing safety in the star position, which is sort of like a hybrid safety linebacker. Colin Gamble, defensive back out of Texas is showing lots of athleticism. They really like what he's doing out there. Ethan Saunders, a defensive end that wasn't really on a lot of people's radar. He's from a small school down in SoCal in Paris, California. He's been showing really well on the pass rush. Stanley McKenzie, defensive tackle out of Hawaii. There was a tweet that Benji Palou had out for a while where he just pile drived one of the offensive linemen. And I think the staff kind of decided that wasn't fair to the offensive lineman to have that out there. So they pulled it, but he's as strong as a bull. And Jaden Roberts, another defensive tackle, defensive end hybrid guy, he's super strong too. He's not as big as McKenzie is, so I don't know if he's going to make as quick an impact, but he'll definitely be in the rotation and at least play the max freshman games, I would think. Jaden Casey is a backup quarterback, a true freshman that isn't likely going to play this year, maybe get a little bit of snaps here and there, but they like the potential he's showing. Justin Baker is a speedy flanker that they have a lot of different ways they can use him. And I imagine they'll be using him in the kick or punt return game at some point too, if they don't from the beginning. So these are newer guys that you haven't really heard about. As far as returnees, I don't think we're looking at guys that have been on the roster making a big jump. I think what we're talking about is how solid is each unit. How is the team looking overall? They're happy with their running back depth. Garbers has been real sharp at quarterback. Running back depth, by the way, has been bolstered with a transfer of Bradrick Shaw, who's a strong back out of Wisconsin. He's probably going to split reps with Dancy as the backup running back. They like the freshman running backs, Chris Street and Damian Moore. Those are big, strong, compact guys that can run between the tackles or bounce it outside, they have said. So overall, I mean, it's been a good performance for the offense. One thing I have heard is that the defense has finally started to catch up a little bit with what they're seeing, the new wrinkles they're seeing out of the offense. So after the offense had a quick start the first 2 weeks, it's been more of a even match, or occasionally the defense looking a little bit stronger. They're breaking in a couple of new linebackers that are going to see a significant time this year. One of them would be Evan Tattersall out of Granite Bay, nearby you guys. Big shoes to fill from Evan Weaver, but I think Coin Dang is probably going to be more the focal point on the inside. He was third in the Pac-12 in tackles last year. And then Braxton Croteau would be the guy that would take Tevin Paul's place on outside linebacker outside of Cam Good. The defensive backs are looking real solid. Those guys have tons of experience. So we expect a lot from that group this year too.
Hey, Jim, I want to hand off to David Taylor. David Taylor, we had a question about the kicking game.
Oh boy.
You there, Dave?
We don't know anything about the kicking game, honestly. They haven't really talked about it. We don't see it. We hear some good things about Sheehan and the punting game, but place kickers, I honestly don't really know. I don't really have any input to give there, unfortunately. I think that's going to be one of those things that I think people are going to be holding their breath on until we see who's handling the duties and how accurate they are. That's a question mark coming into the season for sure.
All right, I'm going to have to Rick Holmes. Rick has a question.
Yeah, I'm curious. Obviously, NCQA is granting an extra year of eligibility for players. How is this going to impact in terms of scholarships? Are scholarships going to be covered? Are they not going to be covered for those that would have already been in the program sufficient length of time? Do you know what's going on there?
Yeah, if they come back, scholarships are going to be honored. The question is if they're going to let them go above the 85 max. And I assume they would. I don't think they're going to make teams choose between letting guys come back because of the abbreviated season or limiting their recruiting classes drastically. I would imagine they would give them a 1-year exemption on the 85 limit, but they're going to get their scholarships back unless they're year-to-year situation guys, like a walk-on who's earned a scholarship because he's starting. Those are never permanent. Those are always year-to-year. So, there could be some movement there, but usually there isn't.
Hey, Jim, I'm just going to say that you're coming through loud and clear for me now. I'm missing that because Paul also asked about the earlier fading. But on to Al Beta. You have a question. Oh, no, that's not a question. That's a comment. David Trimmingham. Tell us your question. You there, Dave? David Trimmingham? All right, I will try to repeat whatever Dave's question is. Any word from KGO 810 Joe Starkey? Is this his last year? What is the bizarre possibility of a Pac-12 football player playing 6 games when then transferring to a Big Sky conference to finish up their year of eligibility? That is Dave's question.
Now, I haven't heard that possibility floated at all. So are you talking about playing like season A, season B of 2020, 2021?
Basically, if the team doesn't make a bowl game and they only play 5 or 6 games and they're a senior and they want to be ready for the NFL Combine, they would probably want to get 4 or 5 games in if they played for UC Davis or Sac State isn't playing at all. But it's just a possibility. It's a weird hypothesis or whatever.
I imagine they'd have to petition the NCAA for that. I don't know. I mean, we've seen a lot of strange things happen this year. I wouldn't count it outside of the realm of possibility. I'd be skeptical that the NCAA would allow it, but I just haven't heard of any circumstances like that to go off of. I tend to doubt they would allow it, but I wouldn't count it out because I think everything has to be on the table this year. You have to be fair to the players.
I'm going to move to Gary has a question. Gary, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I just, you kind of mentioned about the new offense, but can you just sort of give us your thoughts? I mean, there are a lot of new coaches this year. So what are your thoughts on the new coaching staff and their impact on recruiting as well?
Yeah. So starting with Bill Musgrave, the reviews have been really good. Honestly, I was a little concerned at first if it was going to be a good fit on every level. I mean, from an offensive acumen level, I had no doubts that he'd be great. But would he be enthusiastic about it? Would he be able to relate to the players? I wasn't sure about all those things. He seemed a little on the dry side at first talking with him, but first impressions were wrong. He's super outgoing. He really likes the guys a lot. He's built up good relationships with them. He's got them really excited and pumped up. He's giving the defenses a lot of different looks, and the players have said that's coming mainly through the defense not knowing what the different players at different positions were going to be doing based on different ways that they were positioning them on the field. So normally when they'd have what they call trips, where they'd have 3 receivers in groupings, they'd expect one guy would do this, one guy would do that, and another guy would do this. He's totally flipped things around where nobody knows the offense's tendencies. And it's going to be really hard for opposing teams to know what to expect from Cal until they have a few games in their film room to really study. So that's been great. Offensive line, I've heard good things about Coach McClure pretty consistently. I'm sure you guys are, a lot of you anyway, are pretty aware of him with him being a Sacramento guy, but he's a super relational guy. He's a great recruiter, building relationships with recruits on a real broad base and coaches and families and everything else. It may take a little while for him to fully get his legs under him, bringing in high-level guys. at Cal. I do like the group that he brought in, but the players seem to appreciate the mix of what he adds to what Coach Greatwood, his style. Coach Greatwood was a real technician and kind of old school, and Coach McClure is more of a high energy guy. He's building off of a lot of what those veteran linemen have already learned, and they're real happy with their progress. And then defensive back, Marcel Yates is a guy who was a defensive coordinator, and he came from Boise State. He's from that same tree as Justin Wilcox, and he coached Cal's prior defensive backs coach, Coach G, and he's got a ton of experience too. Don't expect to learn a lot from him when you ask about his thoughts on his players, because he's super old school. He's going to keep it dry. You know, I tried to get out of him, is Josh Drayden going to play cornerback, or is he going to stick with nickel? And he didn't want to give that away. He seems to like his unit. He appreciates the fact that he's taking over an experienced group, because a lot of times new position coaches come in because they're taking over for somebody who failed. And normally there's a lot of deficiencies there, but he's got a really deep group. So there's a lot of offensive or defensive coaching acumen in the locker room, with 4 current or former defensive coordinators on one staff. That's pretty unheard of, because Justin Wilcox was one, and obviously we've got the 2 right now with Coach DeRuiter and Coach Sermon, and Coach Yates was too. So overall, I think they've blended pretty well. It's not a real big turnover, everything considered, but it seems real positive.
All right, I'm going to pass along to Randy. Randy Chan had a question or two.
Hey, Jim. I'm a subscriber to Bear Insider, so I've appreciated your insights over the past couple of months. I'm wondering what you think the strengths of the team are going to be this year. And it sounds like it's kind of hard to tell since you haven't been able to see any of the practices, but from what you've been hearing and hearing from the coaches, what are the strengths of the team this year?
Believe it or not, I think the offense is going to be one of the strengths this year. I think they're going to be able to be balanced, because there's really no obvious weakness amongst any of the position groups there. I think Chase Garbers is poised to have a really good year, assuming he stays healthy. I like the running back group. Chris Brown looks poised to have a big year too. Just bigger and stronger and faster than ever. He just works out like crazy. I would see him working out with Nico Remigio and Chase and a couple of the guys at Miramonte, about 5 minutes away from my home where I went to high school. The offensive line, it's a night and day difference this year. Last year, they had to start a true freshman in McCade McTower at 270 pounds, and he did a great job, but it's not ideal. Had to start Matt Cindric at center a bunch of games, and he never snapped a ball in his life. And Valentino Del Toso had to play with a sprained ankle almost the whole year, and Will Craig was out the whole year. General Williams was out the whole year. I mean, it was a mess. And this year, they've got a veteran group. They've got 6 starters back, and they've got a lot of backups who are ready to contribute well too. So believe it or not, I like this offense. The receiving group is good. Their tight end group, they're 4 deep in guys who can catch balls or block. On the defensive side of the ball, I like the defensive backfield a lot. And if they can generate a little bit more consistent pass rush, I think you're going to start to see more turnovers like we saw under Coach GA a couple of years ago rather than last year. They didn't get a lot of a consistent rush last year, so we didn't see nearly as many turnovers. I like Deng in the middle and Good at the edge at linebacker quite a bit. But I think defense is a little bit thinner than we'd like to see to start to talk about them being the strength of the team once we get outside of the DBs who are super experienced.
All right, I tell you, I'm going to pass on this. I'm not sure from Rick Holmes that's a question or not, but I'm going to move to David. Let's see, Dave Trimingham had one more question. Dave, why don't you unmute yourself and ask about the game start?
And Pat's raising her hand too.
Yeah, it was just what's the time for the ASU game? And I think Pat Wong was waving like she had a question too.
Yeah.
All right,
There's
Pat,
no time yet. I wish I knew because I booked my flight and I have to book long when I, extra time and front and back when I don't know the times. Usually those games are in the evening, but it's late enough in the year where that's not a guarantee.
hey, Pat, I'm going to put you up next. You need to unmute your microphone. Unmute your microphone and go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, okay. I'm a techno dinosaur. Sorry.
Okay.
First of all, this has been a really, really interesting conversation, and thank you, Jim, for joining us. And I also thank you for acknowledging my brother's true blue golden bear credentials.
For sure.
The one thing, thank you. The one thing that I would guess that Jeff would want to say to Jim Gill is keep up the good work, be as direct and as responsible as you can and responsive. And that's true of all of the Cal Sacramento Grid Club. Come with your questions, come with your spontaneity, come with all of that. I think it was respected from him, and it will be respected from you. So if you have concerns, ask about them. And I respect that all of our speakers would be as candid as they can to respond to those questions. And if nothing else, Jeff would say, go Bears.
Go Bears.
Thanks, Pat. I think you guys know with my 8 or 9 years of coming out, talking with you guys, that I'm always straightforward. I'm not going to give you the canned answers. I can't tell you everything, but I don't just.
You can do what you can.
Yeah, I don't just cover the team. I'm a Cal alum. My wife is a Cal alum. My son is a Cal student. I bleed blue and gold, and I don't pump sunshine. I may probably lean towards the positive side because that's just who I am. But you're always going to get a clear picture of the team from me. So don't think that you're getting a shaded portrayal when I come out and talk to you guys.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Go Bears. All right. Hey, thank you, Pat. Hey, I'm gonna move to Gary, who has a question about backup quarterbacks. Gary, what you got for us?
Okay, yeah, that was kind of the question. How does the backups look to Chase, and who kind of has the first track? I know that Brashear had a rough time against Utah, but who wouldn't? And plus, there was no line actually to help him. But he looked very good that the game as much as he could. So, what are your thoughts on the backups? Because last year when Chase was out, good things did not necessarily happen.
So Devon Modster has made a big step forward according to coaches and players. It surprised a lot of people last year how poor he was for a few games until he had a good game against Washington State, because he seemed to be a pretty solid quarterback early on. A lot of us remember seeing him come in as a freshman and lead UCLA to the win against Cal down in the Rose Bowl. And that was as a true freshman. Seems like Coach Musgrave's system suits his talents pretty well. We can't really underestimate how much of an impact the fact that he got held out for 3 weeks at the last minute after his transfer held him back. It held him back a lot. I think he would have been better if he had 3 more weeks with the team last year. So he's the clear number 2. Nobody's really challenging him right now. Beyond him, there's no clear number 3. It's a battle right now, in my opinion, between Spencer Brash and Robbie Rowell, who's a walk-on that is a pretty talented guy, and he played a little bit in the Utah game too, and Jaden Casey. I think Zach Johnson, the other true freshman, is a little bit more of a developmental guy. But it'll be interesting to see who ends up making the travel squad out of those three, and who is that number 3 guy. I think in the beginning it'll probably be Brash, but we'll see, because I'm not at practice to observe. I can tell you, though, that Brash's problem last year was not arm strength. It was reading defenses. It was all coming too fast for him. And I think the same thing could be said for Chase Garbers for a while too, and the light really came on for him. So hopefully it's going to be there for Brash this year too, if not this year, next year. He definitely has the arm talent.
Hey, Jim, I'm going to, since everyone listening, they've had a chance to be on mic, I'm going to kind of read through a few questions for you. Let's see. Someone asked, I can move my chat here. When did the 14-day quarantine period start?
You know, we all thought yesterday was where everything hit the fan, but Coach Wilcox said 3 days today. Now, does that mean he's counting today and things started on Tuesday? It kind of seemed like it was Monday, but they weren't specific about that.
Coach Alabama. Rick Holmes asks, how about Coach AT?
Oh, sorry, I forgot about him. Yeah, there's a lot of enthusiastic comments from the players about him. He's been a running back coach for quite a while at Cal Poly. He's a technician, and I think that it's in a lot of ways good for the players to be able to build on what they've learned from prior coaches and implement some new thought processes there. We don't get to see them in practice, so we don't know how impressive they've been, but in comments from the players, they seem to be really excited about him, and recruits seem to like him a lot too. He's a very relational guy.
Dave Trimmingham would like to remind us all that Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay are beating the 49ers 21-3. Also, any team yearbook this year? Jim?
Is there going to be a team yearbook
A yearbook?
with future schedules and all that kind of stuff, like a press guide?
I think they're referring to the media guide.
They're going paperless this year, so everything's going to be online. There'll be access to a PDF through calbears.com.
Because I know usually they would have like an 8-year advanced schedule. Like we play Auburn and TCU and some teams like that. Who do we play 8 years from now? Florida. You know, those kind of fun things were nice to read about.
Yeah. I haven't gone on the site yet to see what they've put together for this year. They did say they're not going to be handing us anything. So look for a PDF on this year's media notes. I don't know if it's going to be a game by game or a full season thing. I haven't had the chance to look yet, but definitely nothing that's going to be circulated in paper.
Thanks.
Okay, that brings us to the bottom of the list that I have. Has anyone not had a chance to chime in yet? 9 questions. Who wants to know what's on Jim's mantle? Anything like that?
Well, I'd like to know why there's no Cal memorabilia or anything behind him.
Well, this is a bedroom, so it's not as likely, but I'll take you on a little tour. First of all, I've got my little golden bear above the bedpost here.
Okay.
But my son has commandeered the den since Cal is not offering in-person classes, but I'm going to bust in on him here. Okay.
Oh, much better.
So it's not just Cal stuff. A lot of other tons of sports memorabilia in case you're wondering if I'm just a Cal fan. So there you go.
All right. Because if you didn't have any, we'd take up a little collection for you. And
There's no need to worry on that front. I've got more than I have room for.
Fantastic. All right. Anyone else have a few last questions for Jim? All right, Gary, I hand the meeting back to you.
All right. Yeah, and I'm unmuted, so that's good. So yeah, so there are. So that's our program for tonight. So we will again we'll be meeting next week, but next week will be on Tuesday at 4 p.m. And with Chancellor Christ, and that's going to be a fantastic meeting. So if you've ever had a chance to hear her speak, she's wonderful. She's she's like Jim. She's very straightforward. She answers the questions truthfully. She's not afraid of tough questions. So bring questions because she's going to have a few opening remarks and then be there to answer. So as I said, apologize for the kind of odd time Tuesday at 4 p.m. But as you can imagine, her plate is very, very full. So getting on her calendar is a feat within itself. And I'm just putting into chat the link to register for the meeting. So yeah, you do need to register, and you'll get the link to the meeting. So take a look at that. It's also in the notices for the meetings that I send out. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for being here with us. Jim, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and answering our questions and keeping us, giving us our Cal fix in a week that we thought we might get it otherwise. So very much appreciated, and we regret that you're not here for us to buy you dinner. So.
Always good to talk with you guys, and look forward to the next one in person.
It was like Patty's eating something good you could share. But hey, I've got an idea. How about I'll ask everyone to unmute. We can maybe we can do a Go Bears with the group.
That sounds great. Okay, so can we do an unmute all here?
I am muted.
Everyone who wants to participate, now is the time to unmute your microphones. And Gary, you want to lead the chant?
Yeah. Why not? Should we? Let's actually do this thing right. All right, everybody, loud. Give me a C.
C.
A.
A.
L.
L.
Does that spell?
Cal.
Does that spell?
Cal.
Who would have won this week?
Cal.
All right, fantastic, everybody. We'll see you next week on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Thanks again, and have a great weekend.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
One last thing.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks. Great.
Give me until tomorrow. It should be up on the Cal Grid Club YouTube page, recording of this meeting. All right,
Who has Oski the dog? Who has that dog?
that's Patty.
Patty.